Apparently this week, like Perplexity was kind of caught red-handed scraping sites where they shouldn't have been scraping. And Forbes like called them out. And I think there's like a lawsuit. Episode 20, why not? Do you remember Superman's alternate ego? OpenAI alternate ego. Sam Altman's worst nightmare. So that's one topic. Other topic is, I guess, still fresh on the minds of everybody. Apple Intelligence. So we'll talk a little bit about that, just because it's like, oh, okay, didn't actually realize this. How's that actually going to impact the breadth and scale of Apple Intelligence? And then Perplexity, which is kind of top of mind, really about, I guess, David versus Goliath. I can't even say that. These are well-funded startups, but anyways. Should AI be controlled by, the top 2-3 big tech companies, or do we actually need to allow for like these smaller companies to take over? Otherwise, we get into the same issue that we are today, right? Is like search is controlled by one massive company, right? Cloud is dominated by, two, like 3-4 companies at this stage, and there's not a lot of options. But anyways, go ahead. I'll let you start. Your favorite, OpenAI, Sam Altman. What's happening there?
First off, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Tour de France. It's time for the tour. So I'm a big cyclist myself and watch Tour de France every year. And this Saturday, it's going to be kicking off in France. So another year, another 2 weeks of cycling 100+ miles a day for these riders. So shout out to them. I love watching the Tour de France. Anyways, as Tony mentioned, our first story is talking about Ilya Sutskever, who was the former chief scientist at OpenAI. I think he was also a co-founder, right?
Yep.
Yep. So he was a co-founder, chief scientist at OpenAI, and also was part of the coup that ousted Sam Altman from the board last year. He left the company a couple months ago, and he's finally come out of hiding and announced that he started a new company called Safe Superintelligence Inc. So those who don't know, in terms of artificial intelligence, there's a few levels that companies are working towards. The first one is artificial general intelligence. And really what that means is AI is as smart as a human. And so that's actually a scary milestone, because if AI is as smart as a human, then what can AI actually comprehend and do, right? And so people are worried about getting to AGI. And so that's why there's a lot of discussion and talks around how we need AI to be safe. There needs to be better control over the guardrails that go into AI if we are to get to artificial general intelligence. And this was actually one of the big reasons why Ilya and the board had ousted Sam Altman in the first place. One of the big things was that they mentioned Sam Altman wasn't being candid with them, meaning Sam Altman was launching products, maybe having plans around profits versus safety, and even investing more into that versus investing into the safety side of AI. And that's why the board ousted him. And so when Altman was reinstated, I'm sure there was still bad blood between he and Ilya was still concerned about the safety. And I believe it was as early as 2 months ago where there was some news around how OpenAI invested more into new products versus safety. Basically, at OpenAI, the safety team got very small amount of resources versus the other things. Now, this is all hearsay, right? This person said this, but since we've seen Ilya depart, we can assume that it's accurate. And so, lastly, what I'll just say is artificial superintelligence. Artificial superintelligence now, compared to AGI, is the next step, and in a nutshell, means that AI is smarter than a human in all aspects. So if you think about those sci-fi stories where AI starts to dominate the world, theoretically, that's what artificial superintelligence means, is that AI is smarter than us. And so they can do things like, I don't know, one extreme example is hack into our systems and do things, to corrupt humans if the AI has bad will. So
Mhm.
all kind of creepy sci-fi stuff that actually can become real. But Ilya started this company, Safe Superintelligence, to make sure that it is safe. He did a tweet and he said, "Safe Superintelligence is our mission, our name, and our entire product roadmap because it is our sole focus. Our team, investors, and business model are all aligned to achieve safe superintelligence." So he's going all in.
I saw the news. I guess I was interested. Like, does he have any backers yet? Like, what's his funding? Because I'm assuming that's kind of what he was trying to figure out, or is like, would anybody actually support this? Because I think that's the next question. Like, I mean, I get it; it's a concern, but the ultimate question is at least from a VC perspective, it's like, where's the money going to come from? Is it like the white hat the white hackers of AI, right? And so, like these big tech companies release their AI models, and then you have whatever SSI out there. It's kind of like the police force of AI. Do you know what I mean? It's actually kind of funny if you think about it. It's like, all right, in order to compete with super and other AGI models, that means in essence he probably needs to also develop an AGI model to counteract that, because a normal human or group of humans probably cannot operate at the speed that an AGI might.
Yeah.
And so I find it kind of funny if we actually went that sci-fi sci-fi route, right? It's like, okay, so he's building like an AI police force,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do we do it safely? How do we Well, I mean, at this point, I don't think it's even how do we do it safely. It's like, how do you counteract anything that's being done with, like OpenAI or all the other AI companies.
That
That's
was
kind
one
of
of
how
our.
I think about it at this point, right? It's like what is it? Pandora's box has been opened, and so now it's about containment, right? Preventative.
That was
And
one
not
of
even
our
not
catchphrases from a
preventative.
couple episodes ago, right? Combat
Yeah,
AI with
yeah,
AI.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And we've come full circle.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. I don't think he'll have problem getting funding. He's kind of well known, and he's got some strong co-founders. One of them is a former OpenAI, I think, engineer.
Hmm. Hmm.
And secondly, he and his co-founders are well off in themselves, so they can bootstrap for a little bit. Now, what'll be interesting though is to me is like you were saying, who will fund it? I think he's got enough credibility. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the founders are Ilya, who's the chief scientist and co-founder of
Hmm.
OpenAI, Daniel
Yeah.
Gross, who is a former partner at Y Combinator,
Yeah.
and Daniel Levy, who is a former engineer at OpenAI. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this was the whole thing around what Ilya was worried about and what's been the talk at OpenAI
Yeah.
is how do you put safety, and even at like Meta and other companies working on AI, we know privacy. We've talked about privacy. So he's, I think the reason why for me why this is from an investment perspective is a good investment. One, strong team. Two, they're getting ahead of the game, right? They're like the first, I think,
Hmm.
maybe to really focus on this. And so if you think about a 10, even 20-year period where right now AGI is the goal,
Yeah.
then being one step ahead of that in terms of policing it or be making it safe
Yeah.
is, yeah, pretty good goal and thing to invest in. So
Yeah. I
we,
guess I
we
guess
shall
we'll
see.
see. It could also be the one that goes rogue, right? In order to protect humans from themselves.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
movie was that?
Oh yeah, I know what you're
It
thinking
was
of.
the one with Will Smith. It was the Will Smith movie.
Is it?
Remember with the humanoid robots?
Yeah. I am.
Uh,
I am robot.
yeah. Yes. I am robot. Literally. Yeah, that one. That
Yeah.
could be the future.
The
Hmm.
robot. The robot will be Ilya. He's gonna get together with Elon Musk implant a
Yeah.
Neuralink into his head that has some AI algorithm and become the superhuman. Well, let's see what happens with this one. But now another OpenAI co-founder is in the new news waves, so we'll continue following it. All right, story number 2. You want to take this one?
Yeah. So hot off the heels of Apple Intelligence and everybody finally, you know, relieved at this point. Okay, this is what Apple's doing. Great. And now Apple came out and says, you know what? Only half of you are actually getting this. So basically, this relates to the EU and kind of like their new, or not new at this point, but DMA, which, everybody is currently dealing with as far as from App Store, third party app stores and payment platforms that, Apple and company are dealing with. And so basically, as far as this, they've come out and said is, they don't think a lot of their core features that they announced are they're going to release it in the EU at least at this point. So no plans. I'm sure they're probably thinking of how to do it, but they've already said, yeah, for the moment, these aren't actually going to launch in the EU because they do not think they can meet the requirements of DMA. So I mean, even things that you wouldn't think, like iPhone mirroring,
Yeah.
is not going to be available. No share play screen sharing enhancements. What else? And then, of course, Apple Intelligence itself will not be able to launch in the EU. And so I was like, wow, okay, this it's interesting. I guess it's not unexpected, um, but everybody was banking on this massive upgrade cycle because it's only available on the iPhone 15 Pro. It's really not going to happen. But anyways, again, this goes back to kind of some of the comments of like startups are doing this, doing that, but the requirements are onerous at this point, right? Because of privacy. And I guess everybody was thinking like Apple would be able to do it the best, and they've come out and said, you know what? Not yet. Still haven't figured out how we're going to do it, and so they're just not going to do it at this time. Anyways, I thought that was a big deal.
Yeah, I was surprised at the two you said. So iPhone mirroring, which is a new feature that's going to allow you to just use your iPhone on your laptop or your desktop,
Yep. Yep.
and then enhanced sharing and SharePlay. So that to me that means, well, they said enhancements. So that
Yeah.
means that SharePlay is allowed in the EU, but just these enhanced things that they were going to
Yeah.
add maybe won't be
Yeah.
able to be launched. So yeah, those two
Right.
surprise me. I'm wondering why that those have privacy concerns.
Yeah.
Does it have to do with?
All right. Yeah. I don't even know if it's privacy per se, but it's like the overall DMA.
Yeah,
Like there must be something, the way it's implemented.
yeah. That's what I was trying to think about through my head, like the way it's implemented, meaning
Yeah.
something is passing over the waves, right? That
Hmm.
the EU doesn't like. And then Apple Intelligence does make sense. And so there are a couple things. I was trying to look up how much does the
Oh,
EU account
wait.
for in terms
Sorry.
of Apple's revenue.
Now I know why the screen sharing things are a big deal. Is because it would only work with Apple devices,
Oh,
right? So technically, according to DMA, and this goes back to like the third party app store thing that I kind of mentioned, right? Is like if it works on Macs, they have to make it work on PCs.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then, you know, does I guess Google and Microsoft don't face the same issues because their stuff like Gemini is like in the browser, right? And so it's accessible from Macs and other platforms. Similar to
Uh,
Microsoft and Copilot, that's part of Office documents, and
yeah.
those are installable on Mac.
Yeah. But anyways, okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, oh, okay, now I kind of get
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
but then sorry, I'm still just perplexing over this whole thing because SharePlay is similar to like Chromecast on Google devices.
Yeah.
Chromecast, I'm not sure if you can Chromecast to a Macintosh or an Apple device.
I don't
But
know.
anyways, we're probably I'm
Yeah,
probably
we're getting into the
I'm
weeds
probably
now.
dissecting it too much. But anyways, okay, what I was I was trying to look up how much revenue Europe accounts for Apple, and it's about 25% of Apple's global revenue. If we look into just the iPhone, let's see. Yeah, it's about 20%. So about 20 to 25% of Apple's business is from Europe in terms of iPhone and App Store and other services. So it's not small. And so I think why you're bringing it up though, Tony, is this may deter Apple's growth in Europe
Mm,
for the new iPhones, right? Because if they can't even launch these things in the EU, then there's no reason to get the new phone.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
actually don't know
interesting
how this works for China either.
for China.
Hmm. Like if they're able to, is OpenAI? I don't think OpenAI is available in China at this point, right?
I'm not sure. Well, but I think it's a good like the article that you shared with me is that's an Apple statement, and so by making themselves loud, their hope is to lobby and
Yeah,
get something changed
yeah,
in the DMA,
yeah,
and they have 6 months to do it
yeah.
before the new iPhones come out.
It's gonna take a lot longer than 6 months for the.
Yeah, so no, it's a good one. I
All
think.
right.
I mean, yeah, it's a hit, but there's still the rest of the world that's going to be using this technology.
Mhm.
Disclaimer on China, and so hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, Europe does something to accommodate.
Yeah.
Well, we'll follow that
Maybe.
story and see what happens there. But I'm excited. I think I told you last episode that this means I get to get a new iPhone. So
Mhm.
yeah, I will be. I will. I do plan to get the 16,
Really.
and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what that looks like in 2.5 months here when we get
Yeah, I
Apple's
guess
hard.
for me it'll depend on what the design is. We'll see.
What do you mean the design? It's not, I don't think it's Apple's designs. The last 10 years have been minimal updates.
No, I like the one of the reasons I got, well, I think not necessarily the 15, but when they went back to the, or like to the iPhone 4's design with the non-curved, right?
Hmm.
It's
The
this, right? It's
box, yeah.
the boxy look. That's really what it was. Like the curved iPhones I really didn't like. So
No,
that's
I'm with
part of
you.
why I that's probably where I upgraded was because they went back to this more boxy design. Because that's, yeah, I think the four, yeah, the four, that was my favorite iPhone design, and I'm glad they brought it back.
I'm with you. I like this design as well. But now that you're mentioning that, I feel like so a couple of things like my favorite form factor was the iPhone 10,
Ah, okay, yeah.
which was curvy. That was my favorite. That's still by far my favorite released phone. I think though, if I had to guess, they may need to go back to some curved form factor, and the reason is the glow on the outside
Mhm.
for Apple Intelligence.
Yeah,
I don't think that can be done as well if the glass isn't teetering off on the side, right?
I see what you mean.
So that way you have the band on the outside versus like
Ah,
inside.
interesting. Okay, we'll see. I don't think I've seen any rumors of the iPhone 16 yet, other than I guess thinner. Maybe they'll make it thinner. I don't know.
Thinner would be great. I mean, I used to use the iPhone Mini. That was a great form factor.
Oh, too
Yeah. I
small.
love that phone. But it just, after using it for 3 or so years, I was like longing to go back to bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally got the iPhone 14 Pro, and it's just
Yeah,
like feels thick. Yeah. So I hope it's thinner.
yeah. Let's see. Well, I mean, judging by the whatever the hoopla around the iPad thing where it was being squished, so maybe they'll do that. I don't know. Once it gets too thin, then I'm almost afraid because you treat your phone differently than you do the iPad, right?
Yeah.
I'd be afraid I'd break it.
Well, with the iPad, I remember when they just announced these new iPads like a month ago. Everyone was raving about how thin it was, so I was like, "Oh, I need to go
Mm-hmm.
see this."
Yeah,
And I went to the store, checked it out. I have the first iPad Pro, 11
yeah,
inch.
yeah.
I think, and it feels thinner than the ones that are out there today. So I'm not
Really?
sure why people were raving about the thinness because I didn't
Huh?
it didn't like it wasn't any thinner than my current iPad.
Really?
Yep.
Maybe you misperceived.
Maybe I need to bring
Maybe
my
you
iPad
remembered
and do
wrong.
a side by side comparison.
Yeah, maybe you need to do it side by side because like that was the big thing. They were like, "Oh, it's like this
Right.
thin."
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you, Tony.
It was an interesting week in AI space. The one that caught me was Perplexity. It was kind of interesting because we were talking about this last
Yeah, because I looked up
podcast.
something and found the Perplexity blog post or whatever.
Yeah, Perplexity blog post, and then there was like whatever Seth Godin or whoever was on LinkedIn, and he was like posted this like, oh, I used Perplexity, and it was so amazing because it had everything there on the page, and then like apparently this week, like Perplexity was kind of caught red-handed scraping sites where they shouldn't have been scraping. And Forbes like called them out. And I think there's like a lawsuit.
But
Apparently Perplexity was scraping Forbes and Forbes set it up to actually try and catch Perplexity doing it. And so it was kind of what we were talking about. So Perplexity, right, provides almost a total summary of the article, and the way they did sourcing is they weren't giving enough credit to Forbes, but they were also sourcing other articles referencing the Forbes articles, if that makes sense, right? And Forbes is like, hey, you're basically stealing our IP,
mhm.
right, and not actually giving us, the proper, you know, whatever
Citations, yeah.
citations, etc. But yeah, it was like this. Oh, here you go. Yeah, on like June 6th, they actually released an investigative article, which I can't link because it's paywalled, so I can't actually read what it's about. But other people have summed it up, which is kind of ironic. Anyways, so
Well,
I was, I think it goes back again. So one, big tech is able to kind of solve some of these issues, and these smaller companies, they're doing it the startup way, right? It's like do it until you get caught, and then adjust and kind of like apologize. But Perplexity is not, I guess, at this point, not a small company since it's been in the news quite a bit. But anyways, I just thought it was funny. Like people tout, that's why they love Perplexity.
yeah.
But again, the people who provide the content probably don't love the approach Perplexity is taking. So Forbes and then Wired came out with their investigative thing, and I'm like, oh man, good luck Perplexity. Now you kind of know like what the actual bigger issue is. Consumers always want free stuff, right? Who wants to pay for anything? I
One
guess
thing
in
you
our
said though is,
circles,
is doing it the startup way, right? Like hacking and
yeah,
taking shortcuts. I
yeah,
guess that's the
yeah,
scary part. At least why everyone has their arms up in the air. Should you do it the startup way, or does it need to be,
yeah,
more protected?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, listeners. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button so that we get more love from all of you. And thanks for listening. Follow us on the place where you get your favorite podcast as well. But we will see you again next week.
See you next week.